Today marks 1713 day of day lessons, day reflections, and today we speak about one word, and that is kindled. And it's a beautiful word because it's like spark, and that's such a necessary thing. Without spark, there's no fire. Without kindling, there is no fire. And I think that because of that, we need to really reflect. Like, okay, what really creates spark? What allows us to be kindled in life? And I think it's such an important topic because when you think about life, I think that we want to sometimes try to really have that massive results. But everything starts from a spark. Everything starts from a small thing that we're able to really look into and we look into where everything started. And it always starts from a very, very small, tiny thing. Sometimes it could be a bigger spark, sometimes a smaller spark. But today I'll share like what we're able to reflect on that Kindle whatsoever. Really to look into like how to live a better life. So number one is Kindle means something had to be lit. You do not become alive by default. It's interesting thing that when I think about really how physical fire is created. So it means the majority of the time is a person could really use something to really create some fire. Even could be external thing. It could be that lightning struck the tree and then the fire started. And I think that in our life could be very similar. That internal fire, how could be lit up? It could be that you are doing something. You working towards creating that spark. Like a spark, fire by itself will never create. So you need to do something about it. Or it could be that external adversity, challenge creates that fire. But again, waiting for lightning to create a fire for you is it's one in a million thing. And why we're supposed to wait for external thing to happen to really spark ourselves to do something? Because potentially we could wait all our lives for that external lightning to come in and really spark that fire and motivation within us. And I think that will never happen. It could happen, and that's because there is a possibility we're waiting for it. And I think that we need to realize that we need to take our life in our hands and really create spark by ourselves, and that's extremely important. Number two, a small spark can outrun years of stagnation. That means it doesn't matter how long you were living a life without spark. Maybe you were dumb, you were living by default, life was just flowing, and you were just like a wood piece on the river just going by. And I think we can realize that spark could change all of that. And it just need necessary only one spark. Because I really love when you look into a very dry land, very dry grass, and then only a small spark starts massive forest fires. Just small spark that creates huge fires. And I think that sometimes we are so dry inside, so dry inside. We're looking for something. And so it's just necessary only one small spark that could create a massive fire for us to really to have desires, potentials, executions, fulfillment, joy, bliss. There's so many great things could start come out from that small fire. And again, that's why very, very important to really create that. Even like that that small spark could outrun years of stagnation, but that stagnation creates so much dryness within us. Prepare the land for us to use as spark to really make a huge fire within us, to really pursue the things that we always wanted. And it is a beautiful thing. Number three, anything kindled can also die in neglected. Sometimes even external things could really create a spark within us, but if you neglected it, it'll stop. And maybe it was not extremely dry in our mind, in our heart, and that spark is struggling. There's a spark, there's motivation, there's inspiration, there's aspiration to become somebody, and now you have a small spark that you're extremely grateful about, but it needs to be nurtured. It needs to be protected. It needs to be more wood needs to be put around it so it can really and a light wood because if you put too big of logs, that fire will not be able to start. So we need to really work on protecting ourselves. We're not when we really start something, when we have the spark, we have beginner mindset. We at the beginning suck at a lot of things. So we're not able to really do advanced things when we just have a spark. But when spark, we do as the beginners do, and allow ourselves to be that beginner mindset, and allow ourselves to grow and develop until we're able to start putting logs into our fire. Now it's not a spark anymore, it's a fire. And if it's that moment when you have a spark is very, very dangerous, because a spark could very, very easily could be faded away. Number four, you cannot kindle greatness while protecting comfort. And it's again part of protecting not just spark and fire. That fire could be in an isolated place where there's no wood whatsoever, because our mind could be very bad. When you think about our mind or our heart, it might be there is like extremely rocky location. So that means if you have that fire in a very extremely rocky location, maybe it will go away. And I think that it's actually important to really nurture our mind and plant a lot of plants, and bring a lot of woods. And I think that's one of the best ways to bring woods is always educate, read books, speak with mentors, coaches, expose yourself to different places. So there's a lot of things that really allows that fire to really keep going. Because when we stop, and the interesting thing about it, because when we stop, I always used to say that, and I think that is such a great analogy, is that it's easier to move from 1 to 20 than from 0 to 1. It's easier to move from 1 to 20 than from 0 to 1. And that's exactly the same with spark and fire. It's very hard to really create a spark. But when you create a spark, and that spark of fire is already here, now you're able to really move very fast to create a bigger and bigger fire. And I think that's exactly the same with our motivation, with our inspiration, with our aspirations, and a lot of emotions within. Is that sometimes it's very hard to create that spark to pursue things. If you have lost it because of different reasons, because maybe life pours so much rain and so much storm within your life, and that spark was not protected, the fire was not protected, and it rained over. And because there's so much water, negative water, now there's no spark, and then we need to really work towards creating a spark. And at the moment, at the same time, the focus on not protecting comfort. That means there's a lot of things that we'll need to do that is not comfortable. That means that when you think about really keeping that fire going on, sometimes we'll need to do difficult conversations with people, and that is will be a wood for that fire. Because if you'll say that no, I don't want to create wood, I don't want to have difficult conversations, I want to have comfort and peace and safety. At that moment, of course, that fire will disappear. Number five, being kindled changes other people without you realizing. That's such a beautiful thing. I think this is one of the most important things when you have that responsibility and leadership within you to really take care of other people. Your spark could spark a spark in other people. Your spark could spark a spark in other people. And I think I've seen it. I have seen it by myself. And I love this one person in California. I will never forget that guy. I didn't speak very English very well, but he didn't communicate at all. But he saw how I lived, because I used to always study in the kitchen, always exercise. I used to run every single day. I used to go to gym, and he saw the way how I live. And when I was leaving, he said to me that you changed my life. Of course, that was for a short period of time. I know how, like, because I moved out. But so I started smoking, I started exercising, I started reading books, because I didn't never seen anyone living the way how you live. And this, I still have a goosebump, because even though that he said that I changed his life, he influenced my life in a big, big way. Because I realized that moment that my spark to really live the way, my life to live the certain way, to really grow, improve, create a spark in other person's life. And I think that's exactly how is life is that when you live the life the right way, you can impact people the big way. And sometimes really having that conversation like he did, he shared what he learned, he impacted my life in a big way. So he was doing the right thing. He shared, and he and because he shared, he impacted me the right, a big way. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So he had the spark and he shared it with me, and that's a beautiful thing. Number six, most people try to appear bright instead of actually burning. And this is a big thing. So that means it's, my mom sometimes used to say that that's not everything that is shiny is gold. And it's the same, not everything that is seems glowing, it might be that is fire. That is just maybe just communication. A lot of times, even social media, people could say like what about the best practices, but they're not doing them by themselves. And I think that we always need to look into, okay, what is really fruits? And I really love that fruits analogy as well. What is the fruits of that tree? But it's not about the words that really matter, but really about the actions. Because I remember in the past, I used to put too much emphasis on even intentions. Because from one side, is it great to have great intentions? From other side, intentions are never enough. Intention with a great effort is enough. Intention without effort is never enough. So that means that we always need to include that effort. Because people say, oh, I have a great intentions. Yeah, but did you even try it? Because sometimes people say, oh, if I have great intention, that's enough. No, that's not enough. And then effort creates fire. Without effort, there is no fire whatsoever. Intent is not even a spark. Could potentially be a spark when you really start putting effort, and that intent could be becoming a spark. And last one, number seven, to stay kindled, you must repeatedly destroy weaker versions of yourself. It's interesting because, as I mentioned, that when the storm comes in and there's a massive rain coming, and it really could destroy that fire. And what is that internal storm, internal rain? It's a lot of times self-sabotage. A lot of times is like negative thoughts, negative beliefs that is start to rain over that fire, over that spark. And we need to really repeatedly transform ourselves, evolve ourselves. So we do not have those self-sabotaging patterns and habits in our mind, in our thoughts, in our behaviors, because all those negative things are everywhere. It's in our behavior, in our thoughts, in our thinking, in our actions. And when you start to see them, we're able to really start to really change them. Because one of the great books that I read recently as well, that I forgot the name, but it's such a beautiful book because it speaks about how our mind is always speaking. And rather than absorbing that information, we're able to really just listen and let it go. Because that information is a lot of times one day positive, one day negative, when it's positive. So you are is very hard to really distinguish. And so basically, the more important part is really observe your thoughts. And sometimes when you observe your thoughts changing because of that, because you're aware of those thoughts. And I think that it's extremely important to learn how to really protect the fire. And so one way to protect ourselves is to evolve yourself, to understand better, to have clarity about your tendencies, and really transform those tendencies into the better ones. And I think that's a beautiful thing because you can have a negative tendency and then transform that to positive tendency. You have potentially a negative thought tendency, and now you transform, and you have positive thought tendency. So something happening, like you're just going by the river, rather than have negative thoughts coming in, you have positive thoughts coming in. And this again is what is your default emotions and default thoughts, and then be able to change that by design and be able to work on that. And that's where the fire comes into place. So such a beautiful topic. I probably could speak much, much longer about it because I have seen so much time in my life. I had so much spark, so much fire, and life came in and poured so much rain within me, and I lost the spark. And I need to really develop again understanding and clarity about myself and really rebuild that so I could really create the spark. And that's exactly what my season is. It's just really nurturing the spark that I have within me that it could create the fire that I used to have and maybe create even bigger fire than I never had. And that's the goal of me right now. So I hope you choose to win and see you tomorrow.